guys ready? She's flown up here all the way from Southern California to be here with us. She's actually forged change in her area and actually got a turnabout with her local water district. And I'll let Michael introduce her.
So again, we have a few minutes. We're going to have our one of our keynotes, again, solution-based and about her victories of what she's been doing with non-toxic communities. Then we're going to have a little recess and come back and do our roundtable. Where do we go from here? Quick shout out to Practical Permaculture Institute, all the stuff you're hearing about permaculture and water catchment. Cathay Fish teaches about this all the time. A shout out to Sierra Streams, who is working to do restoration work on the watershed. We're trying to bring all of these players together, so there's no question that's unanswered. We have the resources and the knowledge here in our community. We're just trying to bring these pieces together. So on that, a nice round of applause. She was potentially going to have to cancel because of a family emergency, but she showed up. She got on a plane. She flew here this morning. She was picked up from Jessica Denning, and she's done a lot of effort to be here. And in her work, I want to introduce another mom superhero, another powerful woman in the movement from non-toxic communities, Kathleen Halal.
Hello, everyone. My name's Kathleen Halal. I am a mother from Irvine, California, in Orange County. And I started to get interested in all of these kinds of issues when I was looking for a solution for my kids. They had autoimmune issues, and I wanted to look to diet as part of the solution. And I ended up meeting farmers from the Midwest, and they actually told me what they were doing. And I was horrified by the farming techniques, and because so many of the crops in the U.S. are GMO crops, and so many are either Roundup ready or they're sprayed with Roundup just before harvest to speed up the harvest to make them ready for selling, so that they can plant another crop sooner. It's like what Sue was talking about, that they're trying to speed up the harvesting process and get more crops planted. I learned about that, and I really started looking into Roundup and what it does. And we changed our diet in our home. We went to organic foods, and I started telling everyone about what I was learning. I was already very active in my community. I am not a natural activist. I'm an art historian. I like museums and teaching, and my background is in that. I went to USC, studied to be a curator. So this is way off the path for me, but I just kind of fell into it. And once you start looking into this and you start learning about it, you become motivated because it's so striking what's going on and how much people don't know about these things. So I started talking to all my friends. I was on the board at the Performing Arts Center in Orange County, and I was PTA board member for all the districts, like the city board for the PTA. And I was running the arts department with my friend and trying to get more arts programs into the schools. And then when my term ran out, there was a space for the position of health and safety advisor, chair of health and safety. And so everyone kind of pointed to me and said, well, Kathleen, you've been talking about all these things, so why don't you do that? And that was kind of the beginning. And I started bringing in speakers and bringing in scientific documentation about Roundup, about glyphosate. We actually had Dr. Pero, the author you were talking about, brilliant pediatrician. What's Making Our Children Sick is her new book that she's done together with Vincent Adams, who's a doctor at University of San Francisco. And she came, I had the farmer come, Howard Vlieger come, and I brought more documentation and more letters from various retired governmental scientists. Every month we would meet, I would have more information for all the PTA presidents and the board. And at the end of my tenure, I asked if we could have a vote and ask to have toxic pesticides banned from our district. Not actually banned, that's not actually the word, but we asked the school board to stop applying toxic pesticides near our children. And all the presidents agreed. We all voted on it, they agreed. So I went forward to the school board and I asked them, and they already knew me because I was also on the parents fundraising board for the district, Irvine Public Schools Foundation. And we raised money for, I had a project raising money for additional school nurses and music, and my husband and I were very big supporters of the district. We made a lot of donations, and it's a lovely district that we're fortunate enough to be a part of. It's very close-knit, it's very education-centered, it's very international, and for public schools, I think they have a pretty good formula going down there. And the really important thing about Irvine is that the city is very closely connected to the schools. The school district and the city managers and the city council work very closely together to create this community in Irvine that's very tight. And our schools are connected to the city parks, and they share kind of the same terrain. So once I had approached the school district, and they finally very kindly agreed to figure out a non-toxic policy for our city, or for our school district, I then got together with some other parents from Irvine, and we went to the city council and we said, well, the school district is doing this. We think you should do it too, because the parks are connected to the schools. So that's kind of how we got the school district and the city council. But I have to say that there's a special mentality in our community that the schools and the city are so closely intertwined. That's kind of how that happened. We have leaders who are very conscientious, and when we first approached them, they kind of had very little idea of what I was talking about or about what we were talking about. So there was a lot of education involved. All of the scientist letters and all of the information that I was giving to the PTA presidents, I copied the superintendent so that he knew everything that was going on. I was talking to him about everything. Everyone was very well informed. The school nurses, I kept them informed, and they knew about a lot of this information. So when we started our group, my hope was that if we succeeded, that I could help, or that we could help other groups across the nation do the same thing. And that's my hope. My hope is that some of you here will be inspired to form your own groups and your own communities and get this going where you live. And I'll talk to you a little bit about how we did it kind of in the specifics. But if you want more information, you can go to our website, which is Non-Toxic Communities. We have a Facebook page, and we also have a website. And our friend Jessica has very kindly arranged for us to have a grant. So we're going to be upgrading our website, which is very exciting. And we will put all of the educational materials and all kinds of things there that you might need to bring about positive change in your neighborhoods too. So our slogan, my husband came up with this, was, let's make Irvine truly the safest for the smallest among us. And that was very important because our city's slogan was America's safest city. So we took that, my husband took that, and he said, well, let's make sure it's the safest city all the way around. And the city leaders agreed with us. So luckily that was a good slogan. But if you can tune into the ideals of your own community or your own town, I think that will help you to work in tandem with leaders. So to start out, I would say get a group together. Get a group together. I have friends who are doing this all by themselves in their towns, and that's wonderful, but it's a lot harder. What we did was we formed a group. Even I had a group when I was kind of alone. My group was the PTA, right? So get involved with clubs that are already formed, or groups that are already formed who might be interested in these things. The PTA, of course, is interested in children's safety. Some PTAs are more receptive than others, but once I had the speakers come in, they were so reputable and so well educated that the presidents realized that this was really an important issue and truly something that should be a concern. So find a group, get a team together. Our team in Irvine, when we went to approach the city, we had a really special group of people. We had myself, I had the experience with different groups we could approach. In the end, I got the grant from Beyond Pesticides. I knew we could bring them in. I knew they could offer the training, so I kind of had the answers from that point of view. I had the science and the contacts for that. We had one gal who did a lot of marketing. She was very serious. She'd come from a career in the business world, so she was in charge of sort of branding and marketing. We had another gal who had done public relations for the Irvine company, so she was used to connecting with journalists and getting press. So let's see. And the gentleman we brought on board had experience with City Hall and city management, so he knew how to set up meetings and who to contact. So if you can find a group where everyone has a skill that they might be able to contribute, it would be really helpful for you. The stronger the team, the better. And then find supportive community leaders. Feel them out. You might have one person on your city council who is going through, maybe they had cancer or someone else in their family has cancer or autism. So many of us sadly know people who are going through certain kinds of health crises, and almost everyone knows even a kid down the street who has an issue. So kind of feel out your city council members. If you have anyone who's sympathetic, that really helps you to kind of get a foot in the door. Take pictures and gather documentation. When you see people spraying around the town, spraying Roundup or doing whatever they're doing, I had pictures of kids in the front of school when school would let out. They post those little yellow warning signs when they spray. They need to do that by law if they're going to spray something that's toxic. So they'd put the signs, and then the pictures I had were of the kids sitting in the planter right by the sign, digging in the dirt with their hands. And all the parents are standing around chatting, and I would see this all the time. So I said, you know what, I have to take a picture of that because no one's noticing, right? And then those kids, what are they going to do? They're going to get in the car, and they're going to have a snack, and no one's going to wash their hands. So I thought this is really like something we need to note. But also, the guys spraying around the neighborhood and so on, just sort of raising awareness and kind of documenting what's going on. And we contacted our school district and we contacted our city. By law, they need to provide you with what products they're applying, the quantities, and I believe we found out when they were applying them. And when you get these documents back, it's pretty eye-opening because they're really using a lot of product. And it's like, oh my gosh, holy smokes. So it sort of motivates you a little more, but it's very good to have that documentation to know what their standard use is. I had a relationship with the maintenance guys. I met with them for over 2 years about these issues before the change came in Irvine. I like to think that it's not going to take other groups that long because I think that there's now a trend and there's awareness, there's more awareness, especially since the school groundskeeper won the lawsuit against Monsanto. I think we tend to pay attention to numbers, and it was all over Bloomberg and Yahoo and kind of made the mainstream press. So I think that there is a lot more awareness, but I actually had a good relationship with our maintenance guys who I'm sure in the beginning thought I was nuts. I brought in a crop expert one day to meet with them and tell them about how it's truly dangerous, what you're working with. And I brought in all kinds of people. And then I'd bring them like organic cookies and cakes, and I'd say it's organic, and I just, I actually loved the guys, even though they were kind of resisting me. We had a good relationship. We had really good people working in the department, and after a while, I think they finally started to listen a little more to me, but it took time, and you have to be patient. Let's see, gather documentation, branding. If you go through non-toxic communities, you wouldn't have to worry about that because we have a logo and we have branding and we have materials. We will give you everything, but we would support you if you wanted to come up with your own branding or your own logo. If you wanted to change it or do your own thing, you can pick and choose what you want from our organization. And there are other good organizations out there doing this. There's my old group, Non-Toxic Irvine, they continue to be based in Irvine, and I'm working with non-toxic communities more on a national scale. But there's Moms Across America who you can contact. So there are different groups sprouting up for guidance, but my group is Non-Toxic Communities. Make a formal request on a petition. We circulated a change.org petition around our town, and parents forwarded it. One parent would sign it, and they'd tell their friends about it, and more would sign it. And every time we got a signature on our petition asking for a non-toxic policy in Irvine, the messages were sent directly to our city council members, so that with each signature, they were pinged. So by the time we wanted to meet with them, I think we had around 700 signatures. And so they knew who we were, they knew what we were about, and then we went into meetings with them. We had meetings outside of the city council meeting. We had personal meetings where we came in with our binders. We had binders like really thick binders full of all the science. And there's more science, sadly, coming out every week or every month. I get more information in my inbox. I mean, and these are studies from like Harvard, NYU, I mean, very reputable universities. And the more professors are studying what tiny amounts of these chemicals can do to our kids and to their grandkids and great grandkids, the more concerning it gets to be. And in the end, all this science that these epidemiologists or endocrinologists are coming out with is way ahead of where our governmental agencies are. So the latest science says we should be alarmed and we should stop using these products around our kids. So bring binders, bring science. We also brought scientists with us to the meetings with the city council members so that if they had questions, they could be immediately answered. We had 2 UCI professors who helped us, but if you can find local scientists or professors that will go with you to the meeting, it's really handy to have all questions answered right on the spot. Create a social media presence. Facebook page, Twitter, Nextdoor. I don't know if you use Nextdoor up here, but Nextdoor is a great way to spread the word and try and get other people to join in with you, show their support. Instagram, if you want to look for youth, Instagram, Snapchat. If you have someone who can handle that kind of social media, it's really helpful to get the word out and grow your group. Develop a relationship with journalists. In our particular case, we had 1 or 2 journalists who were consistently there to support us. So they went to the city council meeting or they went to tour the school campuses. When we spoke with principals, we would get press about this, that we were doing this and this, why we were doing it and our story. And that helps also to get the word out and to get city councilors to listen to you, council members. Once you have the critical mass, then you can go in, like I said, for the smaller meetings. But then after that, you would want to get your group to go to a city council meeting so that they can see how many people are supporting what you're asking for. When we went, we had a really big crowd. We had, of course, all of us. We brought our kids. Our kids spoke to the mayor and the city council. One of the mothers in our group, her child was fighting cancer, so she had a lot of kids come in who had either recovered from cancer or were still going through treatment, and parents as well. So it sort of raised awareness for our city council, and we actually did research. This mother did, and she found out there was kind of a cluster in our town. There was a higher than normal rate. One of my sons lost one of his baseball teammates to cancer at 12. So these kinds of stories and this kind of awareness makes people think twice about whether they should listen to you or not. Always dress professionally. Always make a very clean presentation as if you were going in for a bank loan. They're dressed in their business clothes, so you should be dressed in your professional clothing as well. Like I said, take binders. We had binders, so take binders with scientific studies. We have a lot of information available on our website, but you can also go to Beyond Pesticides or also PANA in California. A lot of you are probably familiar with those organizations. They will give you a lot of the scientific studies, and you can just put them in a binder and categorize them, and it just helps to have science behind you. And we use a little bit of leverage, too. We brought up to the city, well, the schools are already doing it. So then the city was like, oh, well, if they're going to do it, because nobody wants to be first to try it. People are very afraid that it will fail. They're afraid it's too expensive. They've been told a lot of things by people who are sort of pro-pesticide. And it helps to tell them someone else has done it before, someone else is doing it, and somebody near you has already made the decision. So what are you going to do? It kind of helps to make them feel like they're not the only ones. And when I went to the schools for the PTA, I said Harvard is doing it. They've been doing it for years, organic landscaping. I talked to them about all the schools in the state of Connecticut, K through 8. They have no toxins on their fields where the kids play. State of New York, K through 12. For years, California is so far behind on this. And it was really eye-opening for them to learn that, but also to hear that other leaders in other schools had made this decision and it wasn't a mistake, that it could be successful and the grounds would still look very nice. They're very worried about that, you know, and you have to be sympathetic to that. Everybody wants it to look nice. Am I doing okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you
okay.
ready to field some questions, or do you have?
I have a couple more things to
Okay,
say,
great.
and then yes. Okay, so provide the solutions, provide training. You can't go in and just complain and say, we don't like you applying these things, please stop. Because they'll throw up their hands and they'll say, well, what do we do? And they don't know, because all the maintenance guys have been trained by the chemical dealers. And so they think, and they've been told that that's the only way to do it, it's the cheapest way to do it, and they'll fail if they try organic. And you have to kind of get past those myths and tell them that's it's not true. In Irvine, we have been organic for 2 years and everything looks great. In fact, our fields have improved. I wish I could show you pictures, but we used to have very hard sort of dirt patches, you know, interspersed with the grass. None of that now. The soil is soft. Some of the people, maybe Sue, or I can't remember who was talking about the soil being alive. Our soil is now spongy. It's not hard when the kids fall or run. They can get a better grip. My kids love it. They love it, and it looks better. Yeah, it's amazing. So we have saved on it cost, initially the first year, there was a bump in cost of about only 5%. But that was because they were kind of trying new things, and they might not have had to do all that, but they were, and so it bumped up about 5%. But they saved so much on water because the soil is now holding the water. They saved so much on water, they ended up not paying any more. It did not cost any more to switch the system. And now that it's going and the ground is healthy and the soil biology is going, it's pushing out the weeds by itself. Now they're starting to have a decrease in costs. And this has been proven before. Beyond Pesticides did a 5-year study with a high school in Massachusetts, and their costs went down, just like is happening in Irvine. So it's actually money saving. So it's a big deal. So, and we have homeowners associations now on board. So we have homeowners associations, and the whole city is now gone non-toxic. In fact, UCI was sort of a holdout, but the other day I was driving through campus and there was a guy with a backpack, and on the back, instead of it saying Roundup, it said organic. Wow. I took a picture of that because that was on UCI's campus, and the UC schools, you know, they were the kind of the last to decide to do it. But it makes you feel so good. I can't tell you as a parent how good it makes me feel and how lucky I feel when my kid is out there in the baseball field and I don't have to wonder about what they sprayed this morning or yesterday or a week ago. And you know, conversely, when our team plays in other cities, I sit there and I kind of think about it. I'm like, gosh, I wish they were organic too. But it's happening. It's spreading. We have neighboring towns going and doing it. And I hope some of you will be inspired to become leaders. And please come to Non-Toxic Communities. We will be in touch with you. We will give you the tools. We will talk to you. And I encourage you all to go back to your towns and communities and do the same thing. So that's all. That's kind of a sticking point. When you talk about this, you can't touch that. You can't touch agriculture, but in the city will not try to regulate agriculture. That's its own independent thing, and the farmers will make a fuss if you try to tell them what to do. So that's kind of off the table. You don't do that. However, the awareness in our town of Irvine of organics being more desirable and so on is causing the farmers who are raising strawberries and other produce to raise more organic, and they have farm stands around town and it says organic. It's proudly displayed. So it's sort of all awareness. It sort of connects. But I will say the one thing is when we were doing this, I did not discuss GMOs at all. Stay focused. Your focus is children and the community's pesticide exposure. That's it. They can know that you eat organic, but don't cross over into the GMO subject. Stay focused. This is about exposure in our community.
That's kind of what ARC is talking about, is becoming this platform to be able to bring us together and attack these issues one at a time in a manner that's actually orchestrated and focused. Because if we keep running around dealing with every individual issue, we're just kind of spinning our wheels at a very slow pace. Now, I'm curious, we have three agencies up here spraying, PG&E, Caltrans, and NID. How many agencies did you have in your local area that you confronted with this?
That's a really good question, because we didn't work on that level at all. That would be, I imagine, a state level. And I am working on those things now. I've kept working, and I am trying to get some traction at the state level. But I think that that's a different battle. We only dealt with the school district and the city council. So anything the city council controlled and anything the school district controlled. Caltrans and those other outfits would be outside of that realm. I'm not saying don't go for it, but it's a separate project.
Right, and it's one victory at a time, and I think the NID victory is something that we locally can overcome and kind of build some much needed confidence in our people. Right now, people don't feel confident that they can, and they feel worn down. And again, if we can have a win on one small issue, as Dr. Luther King said, pick a small issue that you know you can win.
Yes.
And build the confidence in the followers, and then move on to the next issue one step at a time. And so together we can do this. Are there any other questions while we're standing here from anybody?
No.
Okay, if not, then let's give a big round of applause.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a break in about 60 seconds and hydrate, have some food, use the restroom. We can go outside. During that time, we're going to have some music in the social room. Also, we're going to start up our little round table in a little bit with Peter DiMattei playing. I do want to say on the monitor in the social room, I attended the anti-Roundup rally at the Capitol. So I have interviews and footage with Dr. Michelle Perro, who's also on our evolving advisory board. I have other scientists, and I have David Howland, who does the water research on the ditches, who received a cease and desist letter because of his research. So I know it's hard to stay focused, but when you go and see the rebroadcast over the next 30 or 40 minutes of our break, we're still streaming out on NCTV, on Butte County cable television, and on YouTube and Facebook, more content of what's happening with more professionals who couldn't be here today, who are really, like Kathleen and all the people here, at the cutting edge. So all I want to say before we go is, where do we go from here? We're going to be here every Wednesday for an hour, having a weekly roundtable to talk about these issues. We're going to be doing these once a month, keynote speakers and broadcast public forums, and a lot of other things. We need to engage some of the youth in the area. And we're going to continue working in collaboration with KVMR and all the other resources and the artists who are going to help bring this to light. So on that, I want to thank all of you for your patience and your attention. We'll come back in about 40 minutes or so. We're going to have some food and entertainment. Thank you so much. And for the keynote speakers that'll be back as part of our rain table, thank you for continuing to be here. And we'll see everybody in just a few minutes. And I'm going to ask Dick Menser, who's in the room doing the broadcast, to put on our video with Dr. Michelle Perro and Bruce Howland about the water research. And we'll see everybody back here in just a little bit. Hello and good day to all of you out there watching this video. I'm Michael DiMartino, the host and producer for Golden Road TV and Radio, and today I'm working in collaboration with ARC, the Alliance for Resilient Communities, and we have the great honor to spend some time, get to know, and to interview David Howland. So welcome.
Thank you for having me here today.
And we got to meet the other day at the farmers market briefly. You're doing some really important work, which has come to light in recently the legal case with the gentleman in Vallejo who won against Monsanto, but also with Michael Parson, who got front page on the Union talking about the effect of Roundup on the organic farms in Nevada County. So you're here, you're a specialist, you have an illustrious history. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background of what brings you to this work today.
Well, in the last 7 years, I've been working on a biological sensor that monitors the level of life in water or other fluids. It provides an output in proportion to how much life is in the fluids. And prior to that, I managed an engineering department, product development in water treatment, especially in chemicals, chemical controls, and such.
So you're not a hobbyist, you really are a specialist.
Yes, fair enough.
Fantastic, fantastic, great. So thanks for being here today, and let's get right to it. Tell us here in Nevada County and for many around the world, what's happening and what's in our water.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in our water, and it's quite a challenge for the water providers to manage it. This is surface water primarily here. Water treatment intends to remove toxins and to control pathogens, and they do a pretty good job of that, actually. Many toxins, including pesticides, are entering our water, and that's a big concern to the farming community here, as they use the raw water before it goes through the treatment plants.
And of course, pharmaceuticals,
Yes.
all sorts of things, microplastics are getting into the water.
Yes, and the mining industry as well.
Right. So let's elaborate. Again, we could talk for hours on this topic, but what's the difference when we get water out of our tap between treatment and filtration?
Water treatment is much more comprehensive than just water filtering. And water filtering is still absolutely essential that you do that on your taps and your showers and your schools and what have you. Absolutely essential, especially in these day and ages. Yeah.
And of course, chlorine and all the other things, maybe rusty pipes, which all affect us outside of the pesticides and the pharmaceuticals and all the other toxins that find their way into our drinking water.
Yeah, that's correct. If you have pipes that are super old, it will leach in lead, for example, and be beyond the limits.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you give us a little bit of insight of what water providers must go through as far as regulations to bring drinking water to consumers?
They're responsible to meet maximum contamination levels set on the toxins that they're responsible to remove from the water.
And is it true that some toxins can't be removed from drinking water?
Some toxins are much more difficult to remove from water in certain water processes, and they may or may not include those water processes in water treatment.
So knowing this information here specifically in Nevada County, what are the concerns of farmers, whether they're getting water from the NID ditch or they're getting it from the tap or through public utilities? What's the big concern?
Primarily would be the pesticides that are in the water. Water providers are using Roundup in the ditches, and they're approved to do so. Farmers are a little concerned with that. There's also sources of Roundup and other pesticides in the raw water before the treatment plants. And so the organic farmers are especially concerned that they're feeding Roundup to their plants and animals.
Which is what got Michael Parsons his front page interview in the Union, because he is an organic farmer, and he brought to light that, well, a lot of the farms here in the county might not really be organic because they're using this NID, this Roundup and glyphosate tainted water, along with all of the other toxins that are potentially in the water. So knowing that, is there a history of toxic chemicals in the United States that are being used that are directly affecting consumers in general?
Well, yes, that brings us to this guy here. In 1917, what's called the radium girls were hired to paint the radium on the dials of watches and clocks. And what was interesting is nobody knew at the time that was a toxin. And it took 21 years or so before they realized that. And some of the deceased bodies of the ones that survived glow in the dark. So that's pretty heavy stuff.
So, of course, in this day and age, there's a lot more things that are coming to light, things like the effects of GMOs, the use of bio and geoengineering to potentially slow down climate change. So we can see everywhere fluoride in our water, inorganic food, pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, that there are a lot of toxins that are using in our water. So is there something that we can add to our water or do to our water to make it a little safer?
water filtration is the point of use. Water filtration is the thing that we must do more now than ever before.
Right.
And it has to be the appropriate kind of water filtration, and they have to be serviced properly. That's what we can do.
Right. So again, we could go on this subject, I know, for a lot of time, but we'd like to get right to the point. We don't want to just bring issues to light here through Golden Road TV and ARC. We want to really give solutions. So what can people do besides the water filter?
Yeah, water filtration is the biggest thing they can do, but they can also vote for people that are more interested in health issues. They can learn and teach. They can inspire others. They can ensure point-of-use water filtration is in their schools. They can consciously look for water filtration in point of use and make a change there. And they can get involved in any way that makes sense to them.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, once again, you're tuning into Golden Road TV. I'm your host, Michael DiMartino, working in collaboration with ARC, the Alliance for Resilient Communities. I want to thank David Howland for his time and his expertise, and also for some really exciting patents and inventions that you're working on that are dealing with some of these issues. So thank you so much for your time.
Exactly.
All right. And we'll be back.
Let's just think about this for a second. Over half of American kids are sick with a chronic condition, and you heard me out there defining on the steps what a chronic condition was, right? It's a situation where you've had a health issue for more than 3 months and that there's no cure. That's what a chronic health condition is. We spend the least on food, the most on healthcare, give the highest number of vaccines, and have the sickest kids of any industrialized country. So I'm saying, what are we doing? If every pediatrician is not here knocking on these legislators' doors, then I don't know what's going on. Well, I can tell you where they are. They're in their practices seeing kids 1 every 10 minutes, 1 every 15 minutes, and I'm going to tell you, in defense of the pediatricians, I'm one, that you really can't get into this stuff when you're seeing kids every 10 to 15 minutes. It's impossible, and that's what your schedule looks like. 1 every 15 minutes, that's what we're doing. Are you going to get into all this? Wow. It's really hard. So that's why it's really up to make some of these changes. After the end of these talks, you're going to know more than your pediatrician. So what happened to me? And I want to share what happened to me because it can happen to you. And I think I'm really preaching to the choir, to this group, but maybe to not to some of our legislators. When I read Jeffrey's book, I never heard of this guy. But Jeffrey, on page 16, started talking about Dr. Arpad Pusztai. And so I had to read about Arpad Pusztai. He's Hungarian. I'm married to a Hungarian. My mother-in-law was so happy when I started talking about him. And so what I learned from Arpad is that, well, wait a second. This guy was studying genetically modified potatoes in 1996, almost 22 years ago. And he was the first one to look at this problem of genetically modified food. So why am I talking about GM food? We're talking about glyphosate. Is because they're linked. Herbicide-tolerant crops were developed so we can spray more Roundup or more glyphosate. And what Arpad found, and I'm going to show this histopathology slide, you're not medical professionals, you're not med students, but you're not a bunch of dummies. We're going to elevate this conversation. This is what he saw. And when I saw these slides, I went, you've got to be kidding me. Why didn't anybody tell me this? Jeffrey Smith told me, and this is what I saw. When Arpad fed these rats genetically modified potatoes, and then he looked at the GM-fed rats and the non-GM-fed rats, he saw that the intestinal wall villi were abnormal. Now I'm saying, wait a minute, those are the little finger-like projections lining your gut, and that's where the absorption of all your nutrients happens. So you mean to tell me we have destruction of the gut of those rats that ate the GM potatoes? Is that what's causing leaky gut? The one that I'm telling you that I'm seeing in just about every one of your kids, and mine too. What he also found was in the stomach lining of those rats that they had increased cell growth. That's called hyperplasia. Well, why is that important? Hyperplasia is the precursor to dysplasia. Did you all hear my New York accent? Yeah, right. Hyperplasia. I'll spare you. I won't go to. Maybe I should go to New York, are you? Can I talk like I'm from New York? So look what he found. There's all this hyperplasia, precursor to dysplasia, precursor to cancer. And was this the cancerous precursor that we were seeing from the genetic modified process? Possibly. That's what he found. So let me switch gears a little bit. So if you have an herbicide-tolerant plant that's genetically modified, then you're spraying a lot of glyphosate on it, they're linked. Which one's causing what? I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm really not sure. If you said, is it the GM process? Is it the glyphosate? It's likely both. And Sarah Leaney actually took a look at that. So what I try to do is say, why is this stuff not so good? No way, no. Why do I say that? Glyphosate, it's a chelator. You heard Howard talk about that. It binds micronutrients, and it's likely doing it in our kids. So how do I know that glyphosate is binding minerals in our kids? I don't know. All I know is they're eating it. I check their nutrient levels, and they're low. I fix their diets, and it goes up. Oh, come on, people, this is not hard, right? This is like common sense. You know, you could all be clinicians and practitioners here. So and I gave you a study here, just so you know, because everybody wants data. I'm giving you data. Clinical correlation, nutrient deficiencies in kids, magnesium, zinc, are associated with learning disorders, ADHD, insomnia, mood disturbances, etc. Glyphosate is a carcinogen. You heard that. You heard the World Health Organization, through the IARC. They did the studies in animals. It's really hard to study humans. And they found that it's a carcinogen class 2A. It would be a class 1 if it was studied in humans. And actually, when Monsanto first brought this stuff to the EPA back in 1983, they found renal cell tubular adenomas in kidneys in rats fed glyphosate, by the way. So Monsanto's known this a long time, that there's carcinogenic potential. And they looked at those slides, and then they found another group of pathologists to look at the slides, and then the data kind of morphed. I think you're kind of getting a theme here on how data can change. Depends on who's looking at it. Glyphosate is an antibiotic. I mean, if Howard's stuff isn't convincing enough, what the cutting edge of research now is the effect of glyphosate on the microbiome and how that changes. Now, how do I know? Because I check kids' microbiome. I do something called PCR testing. I can order a test. It's not in regular conventional medicine. It's in one of the tools of integrative doctors or functional medicine doctors. We can do a test through Genova. I'm not plugging Genova, but that's where I order it. It's $134 if you have a PPO insurance. I can map out the entire microbiome of a kid and look at it. And what I find is disturbing. They have very few amounts of a microbiome. Their levels are low, and they have an abnormal distribution of the microbiome. And depending on what issue they have, you'll find abnormalities such as kids on the spectrum will have high levels of certain Clostridial species, or you'll see lots of strep species in kids who have pandas, or other opportunistic players. Remember, most of that bacteria are in your gut or are going to take over if they get a chance. They're not little happy bacteria here to help you. They're going to go over. And so when those lactobacilli and bifidobacteria are abnormal because they're killed off, like in Monica's study, all the bad players party. And that's what happens. And you see it. And when you make corrections, kids get better. How do I know? Well, for one, they're better. I asked the mom, how's Johnny? He's better. How's his stomach ache? Gone. Is he pooping? Yes. The constipation resolved. I'm going to retire on constipation. I treat constipation all day long. They're all constipated, digestive enzymes, better. Because we're checking the stool. We're doing analyses. Why do I do those analyses? Mom's report could be enough, by the way, but dads want data. You have to show those dads that data. They want to see it. Men want to see science. So, gosh darn it, I'm going to show them science. So, it's an antibiotic. Another good study about, this one is just off the press,
Ma'am,
and it shows an explanation for
Doctor,
antibiotic resistance.
I have a question. Is it okay to ask a question right now?
Can we do afterwards?
Oh, afterwards.
Can you save it? Will you remember it?
I'll remember it.
Try to remember. Thank you. Let me move on. It inhibits a pathway in plants. The shikimate pathway is a pathway responsible for producing certain neurochemicals. And it blocks the production of a certain group of amino acids called aromatic amino acids. And we were told that glyphosate wasn't harmful to humans because we don't have a shikimate pathway. And we don't. Humans don't have it. But our microbiome does. And that's key. It's another thing. So, you know, what happens is the aromatics get blocked. Those aromatic amino acids, building blocks of protein. Kids can't make neurotransmitters. That's what's happening. I'm guessing. I don't know. Why don't I know? Because there are no studies. And glyphosate use is discriminatory. This is the last point I want to make. California's poorest counties have the highest application of glyphosate. And they are Tulare, Fresno, Merced, Del Norte, Madera, Lake, Imperial, Kern, and they're all part of the southern part of the Central Valley. And populations in these areas are mostly Latino. So our Latino kids are getting the most spraying involved. And this has been shown to be seen in Salinas Valley too, near Santa Cruz. And those kids have been studied for 19 years out of UC Berkeley. And those kids who are also heavily sprayed with organophosphates, which is not glyphosate, but glyphosate is a type of organophosphate, those kids have been shown to have some of the highest rates of ADHD. And my colleagues who work at UCSF with pediatricians have told me informally and anecdotally that when kids come in with severe ADHD, they say, yeah, they're probably from Salinas. That's how it's become. So I just want to wrap up by saying there's no doubt in the science that kids are tremendously affected by glyphosate and the genetic modification process. This is a no-brainer for me as a clinician to remove toxicants and toxins out of our children's environments. I believe that this is just, as Kathleen Halal said, it's just common sense. Thank you.
Now, if I could introduce Jeffrey Smith, who is named the Person of the Year by Masters of Health magazine. He's the founder of the Institute for Responsible Technology. He's an author, a filmmaker. He had a laundromat before he did all this.
I did? I guess I did.
Anyway, most of us know Jeffrey Smith.
I like to use a microphone. Thank you. We are seeing a pattern here in the glyphosate and GMO world that we've seen with lead, that we've seen with tobacco, that we continue to see over and over again. There's a certain game that gets played where they throw their experts, Bobby Kennedy calls them cyostitutes, and they throw rigged research and corrupt data, and they also have very heavy lobbying influence in places like this, in order to try and convince that there's that our science is wrong, and that their science is right, and that there is no problem. And so I have been fortunate enough to be traveling around the world on the GMO issue, which includes the glyphosate issue, and I have seen how Monsanto captures regulatory agencies and governments. I've been to 45 countries working in this area, and the activists will explain which person in government is the captured regulator or the captured minister or the ministry is taken over. And then I see in their rhetoric Monsanto's words. They captured the European Food Safety Authority, and they actually, EFSA, which is their version of the FDA, they literally cut and paste Monsanto's statements as their own. And maybe change a few words here and there. They've actually been charged with plagiarism. Not by Monsanto, by the public. So what I want to do is talk about how they're trying to defend against the World Health Organization's declaration that glyphosate is a class 2A carcinogen, which they said it definitely causes cancer in animals, it definitely causes mutations in human DNA, and where it is sprayed, there is higher concentrations of cancer. So it's also declared a carcinogen by the California government. And in France, they wanted to ban it. They're going to ban it completely in a few years. So these are, I don't know if you can see, I'm going to move myself so I can actually read them. So I'm going to leave the microphone for a minute. So this is liver and bile duct cancer incidence. And it's related to, thank you. My esteemed assistant. Thank you, Michelle. So this is a correlation. And I have to say that whenever I show slides of correlation, we have to put it into context. the fact that the line that is blue or purple, which is the amount of glyphosate applied to genetically engineered soy and corn, the fact that it is related to the increase of this cancer does not mean that it causes it. It's correlation, it's not causation. However, when you're looking at from an epidemiological standpoint and you have probable causation because you understand the mechanics that glyphosate causes problems in human DNA, oxidative stress, etc., and then you also see these epidemiological statistics, then that gives you a bigger picture. It gives you more data points from which to evaluate. So it is not irrelevant. It is just on its own not causation. But I think it's relevant because if glyphosate is a probable human carcinogen, we probably should see some type of correlation. And here we see a correlation between liver and bile duct cancer. And here we have kidney and renal pelvic cancer. And here we have kidney and bladder cancer incidence. And here we have thyroid cancer. And here we have deaths due to myeloid leukemia. And this is discharges of breast cancer. In Argentina, they went house by house in an area that was of a city that was closer to the soybean fields. And they found disease in nearly every house. They found a tremendous increase in cancer.
Hello and welcome to the Source Directory, a completely new and innovative approach to create a list of individuals, organizations, projects, and events that are helping to make our area more resilient and a healthier, happier place to live. Within the directory, you'll find hundreds of different businesses and people who are all committed and dedicated to community building, environmental restoration, self-sustainability, and economic development. Some of the categories you'll find them under is arts and culture, health and healing, peace and justice, food and farm, science and technology. I'm one of the founders, Michael DiMartino, and I'm also the host and producer of Golden Road TV and Radio, which produces a weekly 2-hour TV and radio show, once again, to bring focus to those people in our region that are helping to make a change for the better and to make this area much happier and healthier with a higher quality of living for all of us. Thank you for your time. If you'd like more information, just check out thesourcedirectory.org and goldenroadtelevision.com. Thank you for your time.
There's a guy named, what's his name? George Holden. He was an activist fighting the...
Hello, Michael. I am Jessica Denning, and I am West Coast Director of Moms Across America, which is directed by Zen Honeycutt. And we're working for healthier communities and healthy children. So one issue we're working on is to ban glyphosate. And you'll be hearing from Kathleen Halal, who has successfully non-toxic program where they have integrated pest management and using glyphosate. And other members of the community who want to get rid of pesticides around our families. So Organic Sacramento, I'm secretary of that, and Kim Glasser, who's the president, and I was legislative director in California for labeled GMOs, where we had Prop 37. We now have GMO-free counties growing bans on the GMOs down the coast from Oregon to Santa Cruz. Today I'm demonstrating the solar oven, and I'll show it to you. It's called the Sun Oven, and it's Earth Day here in Sacramento, 2018. The Sun Oven is right now, it's 250 degrees. It's just warming up. It will get up to about 330 degrees. And it bakes a yam or potato in about an hour and a half. This is important, the Sun Oven, because half the children die around the world from dirty water. And we sterilize water in the Sun Oven. It comes with a little wax candle plug that melts when the water is sterile. And then the water is safe to drink for the children. Also, their mothers now that are cooking with firewood are essentially smoking 2 packs a day of cigarettes and the damage to the lung. And there's millions of moms dying from lung diseases from cooking with firewood. The Sun Oven would allow them to cook cleanly at their house, and they wouldn't have to be going further and further into the forest to gather firewood, which is risky and dangerous for women. And so this particular, I'm not selling it, but the All-American Sun Oven, it's all made in the, it sounds like an advertisement, but it's all made in the United States, except for the thermometer, and which you couldn't find in the United States. The profits go to put sun ovens in refugee camps and disaster areas around the world. For instance, in Puerto Rico, they just had a whole bunch of them go to Puerto Rico there after the hurricane. So if you haven't cooked with solar cooking, look it up on YouTube. Go to the Sun Oven's website and see some of the wonderful demonstrations and videos on how to cook. You'll notice the eggs are just cooking in air, and they come out very tender because the temperature is lower. You can't burn any food in the Sun Oven. And there's, if you look at how down here, there's a little opening here, and this a little dot that comes underneath it that allows you to focus the sun so that the maximum energy is collected here for cooking. So this is the Sun Oven, and I thank you very much for listening today.
My name is Kwong Chu. This is Nevada City, and we're on Britney Springs Farm. And today we just had a training workshop for Nevada County Grown's agritourism workshop, because we're going to have a farm trail coming up in July. It's a weekend, so this training is, I think about 60 people showed up, various farmers, ranchers, and interested parties, and we went through the whole concept of agritourism. And then the second part of the seminar was about the farm trail weekend happening in July. Essentially, Nevada County Grown is a nonprofit. I'm president of it, and we exist to promote and enhance the whole ag ecosystem here in terms of production and sales. So we don't train farmers. We're basically an agency to promote for them, advertising, promotion, and ag tourism is what we chose for 2018. The one single event that we're holding in that direction is the farm trail that I was talking about. We have other things like County Bounty of the County. It's the best of chefs using local ingredients. We have the Food and Farm Guide, which is going to be better and bigger. Spicier is the word that we use. That's basically what we do.
name's Sammy Bass. I'm representing Nevada County Grown. I'm a new board of directors for the organization. Today we had our agritourism and farm trail weekend workshop. We invited farmers and ranchers and local community members out to Whitney Springs Farm to learn about agritourism and how it's hopefully going to be able to blossom here in Nevada County. Agritourism is a way for farmers and ranchers to increase revenue, bring on new revenue streams onto their farms and ranches, help them support their bottom line. With Nevada County Grown in 2018, we decided to take on agritourism as our initiative because we see the benefits that it's playing in other counties throughout the state. We'd like to implement it here, and we decided to do a farm trail weekend, July 7th and 8th. And that is going to be a weekend where we open up our farms and ranches to the public. They can come and listen to live music, get tours of the farm, we'll have live artists there working. Contact us at nevadacountygrown.org and find us on Facebook at Nevada County Grown.
Peter DiMattei from Truckee, Hands of Fire. So much to do, so little time, but when we all share the responsibility, we can get a lot done and fit it into still having a quality of life. So this is kind of the last part of our event today, and this is really where the rubber hits the road. Where do we go from here? We've had so many great speakers. I can see people are ignited, they're inspired, you have a lot of information. First of all, everything that was broadcast today is on Golden Road TV YouTube channel. There's cards at the desk. You can go, you can share it. Let people know. To do this in vain is not why we do it. We do this to help light a spark, but also to get the information out. So you can download it, you can share it, you can have people go there. Everything you saw today, including the B-roll with Dr. Michelle Perro and all the other pieces, are all available on Golden Road YouTube channel. ARC. We are going to start meeting on a weekly basis, and I really want to thank two people, not just Payom Riles, but I want to thank this gentleman right here who really, I mean, he just kicks butt. He came in, he heard what was happening, we partnered, and he is hugely responsible for what happened today, and I want to acknowledge with a bunch of brotherly love and respect this guy right here, Rick Barron. And he is just a supernatural force of nature, and I appreciate his efforts. I want everyone to be able to speak for a minute just to wrap up. But the idea is where the rubber hits the road. We are going to continue to do these broadcasts every 4 to 6 weeks here from the Digital Media Center, focusing on subjects of community resilience. We're looking towards the future as far as more about emergency preparedness. I talked with the fire department. They realize they need a video to teach people. Going and picking up a brochure, going to a website isn't necessarily how it works. We're a content-driven society now. We want things quick, we want it fast, and we want it easy. And that's why we have the source directory. I want to make sure everyone's on the emailing list. I'm going to let everybody else speak, but thank you so much for showing up. I want to give a nice round of applause for all the people working today. Brandon and also Michael West, who have been doing all the videography. Oh, I like that. I like that. Michael Logue, who's helping to do the audio. And before you leave, just tap on the door and give him a big thanks. Dick Menser, who has things happening in his personal life, stepped up because Jim Heck wasn't here to do this, and he's directing and switching and doing the whole front end of the broadcast. So we want to give a nice shout out for Dick Menser. So really quick, check out the source directory, go to Golden Road YouTube channel. I'll continue to be doing my shows on KVMR. You can download the footage, but on that, I'm just going to turn it over to people to do their closing statements. If any of you have a burning question you want to ask, let's do it. But more importantly is how do we parlay all of this into something tangible to move forward, whether we're going to be offering content for Lotus Guide magazine to reach even more people and working as part of the amazing research project that you're doing and with the cleansing, and thank you so much. It's Cathay with Practical Permaculture Institute, Kathleen Halal with Non-Toxic Communities, Susan Govea from Garden Goddesses, and all of you. We have Michelle from Art Truckee. She owns one of the most beautiful galleries. Michelle Erskine, she's a photographer. She owns Art Truckee. Check out what she's doing for the community and the arts up in Truckee. And on that, why don't we start off with the person who helped set the fire to all of this to get it going. Let's have Rick Barron come up and share a few closing words.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Well, I just want to thank, all the speakers that came up here and flying all the way in from Southern California. And ever since I was a kid, I've been fighting for injustice. I've just been one of those people that was always standing up for somebody who's been put down. And it's just in my nature. I think I drove a lot of people crazy over the years, and I'm trying to refine my tactics and learn through life that, you don't want to be jumping up and down all the time. And, a professional, concise movement, dressing professionally, using statistical data that are backed up when you meet with people, and keeping your composure together, and really presenting a cohesive story, and it's rounded out, and it has a conclusion, and it has, when you present with people, you also have to have solutions right then and there. So again, my thanks goes out to this amazing panel that we had here together today, and Alliance for Resilient Communities. The website is allianceforresilientcommunities.com. We're looking for specialists from all arenas to join us so that we can use you to lean on to help collect that data. My goal is next is going to be meeting with our local organizations and pulling in the heads of those organizations to do a strike point, focal point on one issue that we can win and build the confidence in the people. And for me, that's the biggest thing I've been hearing over the years, is the lack of confidence in the average person that's out there. They're either worn down and they're tired out. And the other biggest thing is the children. I have two 16-year-olds, and I asked them what they think about the water issue and everything. And what are you talking about, Dad? It's a cell phone. I can't get them off the cell phones, so you have to overcome that. But if we don't get the teenagers and the youth involved in these meetings here, it's going to be a lot harder, because these agencies have a lot harder time saying no when you got the kids involved. And we'll continue collecting all the legal data and all the technical data, but boy, what children can do with a group of angry moms behind them. Get out of the way. So with that, I thank you for your time.
Okay, next, the big initiator. Again, everything works in evolutionary spirals and steps. He was so instrumental in helping to inspire the source directory. We need a volunteer that can help a couple hours a week to add to the blogs, great content, and to put up the events people need. The beer and wine festival is great, right? Go out, have a wine. But we're trying to have vetted contacts, individuals and businesses that are doing stuff. And this gentleman has really been the spearhead for the source directory. And nice round of applause for Payom Riles.
So I just want to thank all of you again for coming. It really, it's all these speakers are incredible. I was blown away by what I heard today. But it wouldn't be the same without all of you here to share it and absorb it and get inspired by it and go out and do something. So thank you for showing up. That's half the battle. And I guess the other thing that I might share with you today is something that I've seen as I've been working with these ideas of resilience or sustainability or whatever, is that if we want to see changes, what we're talking about are cultural changes, right? We want to make this a part of our culture, make it part of our everyday habits. What do you do when you wake up? Do you know where you get your food from, how you prepare your food, how you eat your food? Do you go for a walk? Like everyday habits, how often do you eat with your family and friends? All of those things are cultural changes that will help us to get these things that we want happening. That's really core here, I think. That's something that I've been discovering. Another thing that not only I have been discovering, but I through my career, I follow a lot of information about resilience and people studying resilience and teaching about resilience. And something I see over and over again is that there's this really clear connection between resilience and community. In order to foster resilience in an individual, in an organization, in a town, in a country, you really often, not always, but often comes back to what's going on in that community. How is that community doing? And even in the tangential areas where maybe it doesn't exactly have to do with community, there's sea level rise and we need to build something to protect against sea level rise. Well, in order to get that done, people have to pay for it, right? You've got to get people behind it to get that to happen, and that then goes back again to community. If we're going to get GMOs banned in our community, that comes back to community, right? It all comes back. So again, thank you for coming and being part of this community. So thank you.
Next person I'd like to introduce, again, him and his wife, Dara, do so much for holistic health and helping to bring awareness. I want to reintroduce and do his closing thoughts with Rahasya Poe, his wife, Dara Lemos, from the Lotus Guide magazine.
Independent media. We are living in a time right now when it's so important that everything that I would stand up here and say about it is really, it goes without saying. It's hard to talk about it. I mean, I heard somebody talking about going to the school and please don't spray our kids with toxic poisons. I mean, who would have ever known we're going to say these things in this world? But we have to wake up. We're living in a reality right now that if we don't grab hold of it, I just did an interview with Kevin Shipp. He's a CIA whistleblower. And when he started speaking out to the CIA because they had a gap in their system that was putting field agents in danger, they shut him down. They went to his house. They're clandestine people. They painted his house with a toxic poison. His whole family went to the hospital, his kids, wife, everything. Then that was the trigger for him. He went back into his supervisor and he says, you know what? Everything you taught me how to do, it's coming after you now. And now he's been speaking, and he speaks to thousands of people. First time I heard him speak was up in Reading. And when you hear things like we have over 2,000 secret organizations that hires 1.3 million American citizens that sign non-disclosures not to tell you what they're talking about, what they're doing. They're recording everything that we say and do. We need to grab hold of this. And I compare it to like in The Wizard of Oz. You know, in The Wizard of Oz, everything changes when they pull the curtain back. And when we pull the curtain back, it's not some monster. It's some old sociopath, pathological person back there that's decrepit, pulling levers and trying to keep us in fear, because they know if they can keep us in fear, that's what infuses our life, and we start wanting to get protection. And that's a bad place to be. And right now we find ourselves in a situation with the media, it's bought and paid for. If Fox News is starting to break some stories now, and that makes me wonder, but even that you have to be careful of, you know, because they throw you a bone once in a while, and then they disinformation it, and then I talk to so many people, they say, oh, I just can't even listen to this anymore. It's over my head. We need to get over ourselves and start listening, paying attention, and taking action, you know, because one of my favorite quotes, and I seldom use religious quotes, but in the Middle East, they say, believe in Allah, but tie up your camel first. We have some responsibility while we're here on this planet as spiritual beings. We're walking around in this 3D space. And while we're here, we have to take care of business, you know? So if anybody has any questions, I interview and talk with people, everything from ancient alien researchers to Dane Wigington at Geoengineering Watch to CIA agents to climate scientists. I mean, if you have any questions, I can probably tell you what they say, you know, if you want to ask any questions.
Thank you. So many questions, so little time. So we got about 6 minutes left that we're going to be broadcasting on. Again, I want to thank NCTV and Ramona Howard for all that you do. Butte County TV that's broadcasting, KVMR Facebook, and all of you. So we're going to have a couple more people come up and speak. Before we get to the last couple of our keynotes, I have a few people in the room that I want to recognize. I love this woman. She is such a wealth of knowledge, and she walks her talk. Cathay Fish from Practical Permaculture.
Thank you so much, Michael, for putting this on. I've been very inspired. How about you guys? Yeah. Very inspiring. So I want to talk a little bit about a design. So I'm a permaculture designer and a permaculture instructor and a permaculture consultant. And why am I telling that to you? Because I think we need a new design. The design we've been operating on in the last at least 150 years here, maybe more like 250, 300 on the East Coast, It was a bad design. It's not working. And everybody knows it. It's not working. It's falling apart. It's sort of like playing dice with the planet and not knowing the rules. What we're doing is killing ourselves. The present paradigm is it doesn't matter if it kills. It doesn't matter if it destroys, as long as it makes money. And I have nothing against making money, okay? But can we make money now with life? So what we all need to do, how do we take this home? How do we take this home to our own lives? Here's how we do it. We're going to make choices from now on, all of us, based on, is it healthy for the planet? Does it enhance life? And if it doesn't, we need to stop doing it now. Now. Because we are killing ourselves. And we're not just killing ourselves, we're killing the planet. Now, I love birds, and I think birds, they kind of bring messages of joy, especially the songbirds. But do you know that since 1989, we've killed 80% of the insects from this destructive agriculture model that we use, so that there's less and less birds? I have a farm. I hardly have any bugs on my farm, which is sad to me, because let me just put it for you. Of 100% of bugs, 95% of the bugs either don't care about us or are beneficial. Only 5% are the bad bugs, but we're killing them all. Now, agriculture, you keep hearing us talk about it because it's the biggest thing we've got on the planet. 38% of the land on the planet is taken up by destructive agricultural processes. And we're changing that. Now, I loved hearing Kathleen talk because she's an activist. And those of you that have taken my permaculture classes, Poyam, Susan, Michael, you know that it's not just knowing the answers, what are the solutions, you've got to be an activist to be able to put them into effect. And Kathleen said, they don't know what else to do. That's why they're clinging so hard to the old way. But there's all these solutions out there. I loved it when Bruce started talking about, who's running for NID, creating meadows up in the mountains, sponges to hold the water. I was just like in the back going, oh yes, this is great. Look, study the solutions. Look, we have to stay awake, like he's saying. He's saying we have to be aware of what's going on, but we need to come up with the solutions, because the old paradigm that's dying, and let's be frank about what it is, the government, the corporations, the churches, they're all falling apart. We need to come back with the solutions so we don't kill ourselves from the stupid old way of doing it. Spraying chemicals on the school property that kids are running around on. And the story you told about the kids being in the soil right after the Roundup is sprayed, it doesn't make sense anymore. So here's the other thing. We need all of us. Every single person here, every person listening to this, every person watching it, you are important. You are very important. And you've been told you're nothing and that you don't look good enough, or you didn't buy enough of this, or you didn't spray this on yourself. We're incredible beings, and we're very powerful too. I gotta tell you, it's either money and destruction, or it's the rest of us and life. What are we gonna choose? And when are we gonna choose it? We have to choose it right now. So do everything you can to find out about the solution so we can make this change towards life. And I really thank all of you for being here today.
And she came a long way to bring her message of hope and to give us some insights and ideas of how to get things done. So I want to introduce our out of the region rock star, amazing woman who gets things done, Kathleen Halal and Non-Toxic Communities.
I just want to say I'm not a rock star. I'm a mom who got mad when I found out what was going on. And anyone can do what we did. Anyone. It's just you need to be prepared when you go in front of the city officials, and you need to explain to them why it's important and tell them how to do it. The one thing that I forgot to mention is that in the current farm bill that's going through Washington, D.C. right now, there was an issue that came out in the recent lawsuit in California where the school groundskeeper won the lawsuit against Monsanto for the glyphosate use. There was a section in that lawsuit where the Monsanto employees, I think it was the California state reps or West Coast state reps, they were talking about schools stopping the use of glyphosate. And they said, how is this even legal? And they were really upset about it. And they actually named the Irvine School District in this note. And they talked about taking out the politicians that are supporting this kind of legislation. And so now currently in Washington, D.C., hidden in the Farm Bill is a clause that would prevent us from having the right in our communities, in our state, in our region, from passing any legislation that is more restrictive than what the FDA allows. So they're trying to stop us, and they have a part in the Farm Bill right now, a section in the Farm Bill. And I would encourage all of you, if you go to Non-Toxic Communities, we'll give you the emails and the phone numbers, but I would encourage you to reach out to all of the assembly members. This is going through the House introduced it. It's the House introduction. So call the members of the Farm Bill and tell them you don't want that clause in there, that you want to protect your right in your community to pass your own policies toward what is applied around our kids and our pets. And also call your own representative and tell them as well that you don't want this to happen. We really need a lot of people to speak out on this because they're trying to block us now. So. But I do want to leave this on a positive note that anyone can do this. Please just contact us for help or go out on your own. You know, you can contact one of the other organizations if you wish, but we'll help you. We will help you, and you can do it too. So.
And another solutionist, or earthafarian, as we can say. I mean, we're coming up with new paradigms, new verbiage. We're really moving into a whole new way of thinking about things. And Cathay's so right. The old system is breaking down on every level, economically, spiritually, financially. But we have solutions. So I want to introduce, again, Dr. Shen Hong Liu. I get it right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I think the biggest thing is up to us now. I really want to look for 10 physicians in each area to join our detox project to start collecting data and in correlation with diseases and their symptoms. I think even the Monsanto and the government and many of our presidents have cancer and cardiovascular disease, Parkinson's. I think it's really something that everybody is affected. So if we can make that connection between disease and poison, we have a much bigger voice. I think that's come down to not only agriculture business rights. That's what the government, this country is always protecting the business interests. Is now we're looking at a crisis in healthcare. And Medicare is running out of money, and the government is running out of money. If they know they're creating more chronic disease that nobody can take care of, they will look. So I really want to encourage everyone to give me numbers of their physician. We can start detecting and detoxifying our body and our community. Thank you.
And we had so many people today, we couldn't get everyone up as part of the keynote speakers, but another person we want to recognize in the room is doing incredible work with her organization, Garden Goddesses. I'd like to have a nice round of applause and give the podium to Susan Gouvet.
Make this quick, but I founded the Society of Garden Goddesses 9 years ago, and it's all about getting people together to learn about sustainability, cooking organically, growing our own food, and being activists. And my goal is to make activism fun, and I have all kinds of fun events that I host that make a ripple effect in the community and bring together really powerful people who make a difference and make this planet an awesome place. And I believe there's a solution for everything. So that's what makes it fun being an activist. So, and we have a water workshop coming up at my home on October 14th. And we're going to be making our own biochar and house filters. A gentleman's going to teach us how to do that. And Kathy's going to present all kinds of fun stuff about water. And then I'm going to prepare some wonderful food for us. So hope to see you all there.
So I'm going to keep it to just a couple words. Words can't describe the amount of appreciation. When I began this journey here a couple years ago at Golden Road TV and radio, trying to give everyone a podium for their message, for their business. And now that we've anchored and found our cause around community resilience and these topics, and we have a directory of how we can go there and find people and events, and everybody can put up blogs about things that are relevant, we have a little bit of a hub to help bring some of the spokes of what everyone's doing together. So again, thank you all of you for coming. Please make sure you're on the email list. We're going to do this again in about another 4 to 6 weeks. And I already have commitments from 2 other counties of people who want to anchor ARC there. Louis Elbinger, who just ran for Congress for the Green Party, is going to be anchoring ARC in Siskiyou County, which is Mount Shasta. And I have some tentative commitments from people in Butte County that are interested in helping to anchor ARC there to do a monthly roundtable and discussion to identify the issues and, more importantly, to look at solutions within our own communities. And through ARC, we're going to try to continue to bridge this region of the Sacramento River watershed and also reach out to statewide and national professionals who can help enlighten us in our challenge to help get some things done. So again, thank you so much. Thank you for NCTV. Thank you again, Michael and Brandon, who have been running cameras all afternoon. There's been a lot of effort and volunteerism that goes into making this happen. Thank you for you guys bringing food, and we'll contact you and we'll see everyone in a few weeks. And again, this is on YouTube. Share it. Let people know all the cards are on the table. Spread the word. And thank you so much as we continue to move forward as a town, as a county, as a region, as a state, and nationally to make changes, because we can't depend on other people to do the work anymore. So thank you so much. And thank you for those of you who are tuned in this afternoon, and have a great day. Blessings to all of you. Be safe. And we'll see everybody, if you'd like, on Wednesdays, when we'll have some casual public forum meetings. Nothing like this, just people getting together and talking. But we'll be back here and at the end of October. It's Earthquake Preparedness Month. And again, a lot of people don't even know what to do. So we're going to continue to take on some of these issues. But like Rick emphasized, let's get a victory. Let's get something under our belt and get some momentum and expand and build on what we are doing here today and what all of these people have been doing for years and decades, and help engage the youth. That's the key. We have to engage the youth. So thank you very much. Thank you, Peter DiMattei, for playing. You want to finish us off with a song as we finish?
Well, aren't we done?
Yeah, we're done.
It's never done.
We're going to be meetings. I am committed to being here every Wednesday from 6:30 to 8 in the roundtable room. We also have a new office that we're just opening. You can see our logo. We have the website up. Anyways, enough words for a day. We're going to be here every Wednesday, 6:30 to 8. Some representatives of ARC to continue the discussion and to continue connecting the dots. So much was shared today, it's impossible to do it in an afternoon. So let's continue to connect the dots using our independent media, letting our voices be heard, bringing in the specialists, working with the people who are doing the work in the community, and continue to reach out to get the work done. We cannot count on just one person or organization or even the government to do it. So I just want to say this isn't political, it's not partisan. This is about human health, quality of life, and all of us collaborating to fulfill our divine potentiality as a human race. So thank you so much.
Hello and welcome to Golden Road TV and Radio. I'm your host, Michael DiMartino. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm working in collaboration with ARC, the Alliance for Resilient Communities here in Nevada County. And we're helping to bring issues about resilience more to the forefront and help to educate the general public. Well, we're very fortunate today to get time with an incredible gentleman, very knowledgeable, with a long history, who's working on issues of food and water security. And we want to welcome to the show today, David Howland.
Thank you, Michael.
How are you doing today?
Doing good.
Good, you look sharp.
I am sharp.
All right, you are, and we appreciate your time. And before we start, I know that you have an illustrious background. You're not a hobbyist in this area. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how it pertains to food and water safety?
In the last 7 years, I've been working on a biological sensor that is in now patent application. It detects the level of life in water, biological life in water. And prior to that, I was in the water treatment and chemical dispensing business and spent a lot of time all over the world developing and working with water treatment and other chemical dispensing forums for improved technology in chemical dispensing and in water.
And of course, with a huge educational background, I'm sure, behind all of that.
Engineering and business, both, yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thanks for being here today. And we want to start out with just kind of giving our audience the understanding of the difference between water treatment and water filtration.
Water treatment is more comprehensive than water filtration. Water treatment involves several steps to take the raw water from the environment. And in the case of Nevada County, we have more surface water than maybe other places might have more well water. So the treatment facilities are really set up to manage the kind of water that you have in your environment. And this water is very challenging because we had the mining industry here before, and we have all of the other toxins that rain down on us from everywhere. So my hat's off to them. They pass their standards, and they do take a big bite out of what we have to face with our water. The challenge is that in the raw water side of it, before the treatment facilities, our farmers are burdened with agricultural water that they haven't processed yet because the water goes right by the farmers before it gets to the treatment plants.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, there's very specific regulations. Now, I know a lot of these might be older regulations and aren't necessarily always taking in the new data about things that are affecting the quality of our water, herbicides, pesticides. Of course, we have legacy of heavy metals here in the water up in mining country. Mm-hmm. So based on this information, what regulations does a water provider have to follow?
The regulations they follow are set up by the California State Board of Water, and they set maximum contaminant levels for a group of toxins that they are concerned about. And then water providers process the water to meet those toxins. Now, prior to water treatment facilities in this county, the water is opened in the ditches and so forth. And the water treaters really have no way of treating that water. So that water goes to our farms before it gets treated. And that's a real challenge here in this area.
Right. And I know you brought some great visual aids. We talk a lot about the agencies who all play a role in public water, from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to the Department of Agriculture, State Water Resources Control Board, the California Department of Pesticide Regulations. But since you're such a wealth of knowledge and information, could we talk a little bit about maybe some of the substances of concern that are in farm water and also potable water?
All right, fair enough. Let's talk about the raw water first before we get to the potable waters. We have pretty much all of the toxins you can possibly imagine, and there are many, many, many. There's too many to really talk about. I have a list of a few of the ones that might be something of concern. And in the case of, for example, aluminum, the maximum contaminant level is about 200 parts per million. For arsenic, the maximum contaminant level is about 10 parts per billion.
Why would there be aluminum in our water here in Nevada County?
It rains out of the sky.
Okay.
It happens to be in the environment from humans and all kinds of sources, yeah.
I also know something that people are really concerned about is fluoride. Do you know if in fact that fluoride is put in Nevada County?
It is not.
Tap water. Oh, good. That's a victory. That's
No,
good
no,
news.
but it's not, fluoride is a controversial chemical in two ways. One of them is it's like prescribing a medicine for everybody to use without their permission. That's one of the big problems with fluoride. You don't choose whether you have it or not. They put it in your water, you get it. The other aspect, though, is it's very controversial because it's actually a hazardous waste. And you can look more up about that. Anyway, so most of the cities in California fluoridate their water. We just happen to be lucky here in that they don't.
Fantastic. And again, we're going to have a visual aid to go along to give some more information to people.
Yeah.
But let's move on. What are the concerns of farmers here in Nevada County?
Primarily the pesticides that are introduced by the environment already, and then the fact that our local water provider is authorized to use pesticides, and they are authorized to use them into 2019 as well. They've been approved for that. And that those pesticides include Roundup, which has an ingredient glyphosate, which is on Prop 65 as a health concern. And that is primarily what this petition is, that people are signing around the county to ask.
And recently there was a huge victory for a gentleman who had cancer in Vallejo, who actually won a lawsuit for about $270 some odd million against Monsanto. So, and Proposition 65 is really the fulcrum that can give us a little more leverage against these companies and some of the responsibility of what they're doing.
Yes.
So NID is using Roundup along the irrigation ditches in Nevada County.
Yes, I feel they may choose not to, even though they're authorized to.
So in doing that, that NID water, of course, goes out to farmers in their fields.
Yeah.
Of course, I know a lot of people who will go into NID ditches or have livestock that will go into the ditches and be affected. I know recently Michael Parson had a front page article on the Union where he talked about being an organic farmer, that his farm's organic rating was being affected because of the use of the Roundup. So it's not just on the ditches, they also use it along the roads and many other areas, of course, and if we have a storm and it rains and it goes down into the ditch.
Yes.
So, and again, this has a detrimental impact on the water table. Can you talk about that for a minute? Because a lot of people don't realize what happens on the surface, even though we have primarily surface water, it can also leach into the water table.
It's actually larger than that, I'm afraid to say. What happens is the number of new pesticides approved every year by the California Department of Pesticides is, I don't even know what the count is, it's a lot of pesticides. So we have years and years of new pesticides being approved and used on the planet. And they end up forming a toxic soup, if you will, where I'm not sure exactly how, as a scientist, I would isolate each individual toxin and ascribe it to what it does in the environment. It has a net effect on reducing the food chain, getting in the food chain, and causing not just systemic damage in individual species, but on the species that rely on them. So the idea of putting pesticides in the water is just wrong.
So we're not even talking about other things that are impacting our water quality too. So again, this is a huge rabbit hole we could go down for a very long time, but we do have a little bit of time with you today. So for instance, we talked about other things in the history of toxic chemical use in the U.S. And I saw you brought a visual aid. Can you tell us a little something about that?
Yeah, the correlation between the radium girls, which were told that it was perfectly safe to use radium when they were painting the dials of clocks and watches. And then 21 years later, the radioactive radium took a toll on their bones, and they actually ended up glowing in the dark. Their deceased bodies were found to be glowing in the dark from how much radium they had ingested. And the fight went on for 21 years. And this is very similar to glyphosate. Right now we're having the case you talked about. Glyphosate has been around since the 70s. It's actually been used in this county
And it's
that long.
interesting, actually, some of the natural food companies right now who have touted being natural, like Nature Valley granola bars, actually just got tested and found out there's even Roundup and glyphosate in the granola bars. So let's
Cheerios has glyphosate.
Oh, not Cheerios.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I hate to tell you.
What is this world coming to? Anyways, so we don't want to just bring this to light, but we want to give people some practical ideas and solutions. So is there something that people can add to their water to help diffuse or to clean or to cleanse the water so it's a little more potable?
Well, in terms of additives, what you do with additives is you add something that might bind or attach what you're trying to get rid of, and then that puts it in a form that is more easy to get rid of. So for example, one of the technologies involved in the mining industry here is to throw activated carbon as little pieces in the mine sites around here, and then let the water run over it, which is full of mercury, methyl mercury. The carbon absorbs the methyl mercury, and then the carbon is easier to clean up. It doesn't end up going into the water system. So there are things you can add in a process to coagulate the material you're trying to remove. The biggest thing that you can do in the portable water side is with the proper kind of filters. And I have descriptions about that in the aids here.
Even though currently we're putting a special focus on what's happening with NID and Roundup, there's lots of other substances that are in our water that affect our quality of life and health. I was actually surprised to find out that you had done some heavy metal testing and you found copper. Why is there copper in the water?
The water treaters are actually using copper as an aquicide to kill the algae in the open water. That's why it's there. Yeah.
Okay. So we also know there's other lists, and you being a scientist and being very prepared, can you tell us a little bit about the lists and the different categorizations of things you found in the water?
Yeah. This is a list of the volatile organics that were actually found in Nevada County in 2017. For example, one of them is chloroform. And then we have some chemicals and products that may be added by water providers, and this is only a partial list, and that would include the copper that I just mentioned. And then, of course, we have the regulations. We have the regulated substances disclosed by our water provider. Now, the interesting thing
those
is
are things like chlorine, right, to purify the water. So when someone takes a shower, we're actually getting our body chlorinated, which is a huge carcinogenic and cancerous material. And what are some of the others?
Copper, lead, aluminum, chloride, manganese, sulfate.
Wow.
Yeah, lots of stuff. Now, what's interesting though is you have to test for each specific thing that you want to know about. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of toxins that can be in water. The regulated substances are those that were most of concern to the regulators. It doesn't mean there isn't something else in there or something else shows up in there. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that can be in water. A lot of water filtration takes groups of things out, which is good. And so, you know, the stuff that would take out copper would probably take out lead.
And there's different processes of purification too. I know they do like reverse osmosis.
Yes, that's very expensive though. I doubt that we use reverse osmosis in our treatment facilities here, but I don't know. I haven't been in the facilities.
So how would it work? I know sometimes people will take tap water and put it in a bottle and let it aerate to get rid of the chlorine gas.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Are there other little kind of simple techniques people could do in the comfort of their own home or convenience, along with water filters, that could help them?
Probably is the answer to that, but I'm not sure. I know that the focus here would be more on the farmers, and there are definitely things the farming community can do about this, definitely. I mean, we can put the organic back in our organic farms in Nevada County.
Well,
and I'm going to do what I can to see that happens.
Well, I think working with people like you in partnership and ARC and also people like Michael Parson, and we're going to be working with GMO-free Nevada County, that a lot of this stuff is going to be brought to light very quickly. But things change because people become active to help make a difference. And right now there's several people running for the NID board between now and November that you can look into. We have some video up on the Golden Road TV site that are at this point against Roundup, so we can help sway the vote and get people on the NID board that will help make the right decisions for our community health. So is there a particular water filtration system or technique, charcoal, ceramic, that you would at least start to recommend to people?
No, you have to analyze the toxins that you might expect and that you want to remove, and then choose the appropriate filter systems for them. Yeah.
Fantastic, good information, thank you.
Yeah.
No corporate endorsements here.
No, no.
Okay.
No.
What else can people do besides water filtration? What else could people do in Nevada County, but in their region, to help protect themselves against some of these environmental toxins?
We can vote. That's a very powerful tool for us. And we can also teach and learn more about water and water quality and health issues, and we can become more of an expert, each of us, to try to make an effect that way. Just get involved. It's a really important issue. I can't think of a more important time, from what I know from the history of water, to take it more seriously.
Well, like the native people say, in many cultures, water is life. And we saw recently with the Dakota Access Pipeline, there's already been spills and validated concerns by the indigenous community. So I also know you have some exciting patents and projects and things coming up that are going to help us in this area. And I just want to deeply thank you for your commitment, your time, and your expertise to help bring this to light for our community. And anything you want to finish with before we end?
Happy to be here. I'm glad we're all getting involved. I'm really excited about what people are doing now. It feels good. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for tuning in to Golden Road TV and Radio. I'm your host, Michael DiMartino, and I also want to thank ARC, the Alliance for Resilient Communities, and helping to contact David to make this interview possible. You're going to hear a lot more from them in the future, and make sure you check out the whole directory listing of all the people like David and businesses that are concerned about our community at thesourcedirectory.org. Thank you.
So I want to thank you all for your commitment and research. I've learned something new today. I was a little bit shocked to hear that some judges and politicians might get under the table payments or work for large companies. I'm shocked, but I'd like to say, and it kind of accentuates what you just said. I've actually been a vegetarian 36 years, and I raised my children completely organic. But when it comes to making change, it really starts within. So even though we're here in the Capitol building and we're trying to bring this to the awareness of legislators and make this more common knowledge and get out to the media, the reality, it starts with our own practice of what we're talking about today on our self-awareness. How many of us heard a few years ago when Taco Bell was serving cattle corn? I mean, I know a lot of people really enjoy fast food restaurants, but I've shied away for a long time. I haven't seen a doctor in over 35 years either. But the point being that it really starts with all of us, and it's hard. It makes time for preparation. It can be a little more expensive, but I want to encourage you all to eat organic and educate your neighborhood. Where I live up in Nevada County, there's big neighborhoods that have all gotten together and refused the spraying of Roundup because it gets into the water tables. And actually, some of the solutions they came up with is they hired teenage kids in the neighborhood for less money than the city was spending on spraying to come out twice a year with lawnmowers and just cut the weeds down and take care of it. So there's a lot of very people-orientated, community-based solutions that we can find. And of course, we have to continue the political pressure, but nonetheless, make the changes. Let's not wait. I think that's one of the things that's happening with our country. As much as I love being an American in our country and I've traveled the world, is that we can't wait for someone else to do it. People have to find a peaceful and community-based solution to make the decisions and the choices. And if you want to go to McDonald's or Burger King or Taco Bell or Kentucky Fried Chicken, you know what? Turn and go to Whole Foods, spend a few more dollars, and do the right thing, because it really does affect your quality of life.
Thank you very much.
Well,
I just want to remind all of you.
I do think if Howard or Michelle want to also add what to do, I think it's a good point to end on what we can do. We have a little landing page called Non-GMOs Improve Health. And on there you can see the results of that study that I showed with the 3,000 people. There's an interview with me and Michelle about her clinical experience. You can enter information to get a free PDF of my last book, Genetic Roulette, and a video update. So I would suggest that there was a question about we're just preaching to the choir. I like to use the word arming the choir. And it's like that's a web page, Non-GMOs Improve Health, that you can share with everyone. And it's got a easy to read summary of the article on the left side, the detailed 21-page article on the right side in terms of a click. And that's one thing that I'd like to recommend, is that we all use this opportunity to decide what we can do. And before I turn it over to Michelle, who I'm going to suggest, plug your book. I'm going to also suggest that our attitude be one of switching from victim to victor. And it's like, some people like to thrive on the fight, but we don't even have to feel like, sure, they're trying to hurt us or whatever, make a buck. But we can completely drop the fight piece too and say, yeah, this is our world. This is what we've inherited. This is what we're going to pass on. And so just choose to bless the world and your life with what you know to be true. Bless your friends with that information, and become a victor. That's my message.
Can you repeat the site?
The site is Non-GMOs Improve Health.
Thank you, sir. I'm blessed with serendipity because my neighbor, Dr. Vincent Adams, and I were hiking, and she agreed 4 years ago to write this book together because I was unable to put my tushy in a chair after working in a clinic all day. And without Vincent, Dr. Adams, incredible skill, curiosity skill. She was a major skeptic initially, and now she is totally on board. But her incredible attention to detail, I'm a kind of a big picture gal, but she honed me in on details that we were able to produce that book. And we are very proud of that book, and it really is, I think, one of a kind. To have the scope of a clinician and the broader picture of a medical anthropologist together who understand the big picture. So that marriage is a beautiful gift. So thank you, Vincent.
Thank you. What's the name of the book?
It's What's Making Our Children Sick, and we really did a great look into the expose of looking at my patients, but in a way that's both narrow and very broad. And we looked at the bigger food, the politics of food, in a big way. And there's the book. What's Making Our Children Sick by Chelsea Green.
Oh.
So we're hopeful that we can get it to every parent, every consumer, every eater out there. That's for eaters. And again, as Jeffrey said, we're doing this in a non-contentious, non-fighting way. This is just sharing information. If I can say one thing to families, it would be I have 3 things that I tell parents when they leave the office is eat organic, drink filtered water, and take your shoes off at the door. And if people can do those 3 things, dust is the most toxic thing you bring into your house, although my husband won't take his freaking shoes off. Other than that, if your families can do those 3 things, there it definitely is for better health. And that's just simply what I tell my families.
There is any chance that your book will be translated to Spanish?
I love that question, and we are talking to our editors to get it translated into Spanish. It's going into Polish. That's the first country. Woo-hoo! Go Poland. But yes, Spanish would be great. We have some connections in Buenos Aires, and we'd love to go down there for a little road trip.
I am from Buenos Aires.
North Korea?
I am from Buenos Aires.
You're from Buenos Aires? We're trying to get there. Because there are so many problems, as you saw in Argentina.
Maybe you can translate.
So yeah.